Glass exploded from my bedroom window, as did Uncle Alf's leg, hitting the ground running for the open road. I dashed out of the front door after it, but Alf had been a Paralympic sprinter in his day and there was no contest. I scrambled into the car and took off after the disappearing limb. I was within yards of cutting it off when a bus pulled out of a side road. I slowed. The bus came to a stop and Alf's leg bounded aboard. Before I could leap from the car, the bus took off, leaving me no option but to follow its route into town. This gave me time to think. Uncle Alf's leg had had its moments before, rattling inside my wardrobe to be let out, but often content with a sprint round the back garden. It wasn't Alf's athletic leg. That had been buried with him. This was the proto-limb, the first to be fitted after the IED blew his limb off at the knee in Helmand. He left it to me, his favourite nephew, because I had enjoyed his army tales long after I'd sussed out the embroidery he'd woven into them. No, he hadn't lost it in a game of poker, nor had he sawn it off to eat when he was stranded alone in darkest Afghanistan for 5 weeks. But it was fun borrowing it as a make-do cricket stump or bat, sometimes sticking it in the sand next to his good foot after I'd buried him on our seaside holidays. Long after his death, Alf's prosthetic, dented in places from haymakers and roughened from salt and sand, insisted on attending the Remembrance Day at the local war memorial. Those of his comrades who remained turned up to honour his presence with a friendly tap on his shin or a stamp on his foot. Foremost among these was, of course, Captain James, who had rescued Alf after the detonation and brought him to safety and surgery at considerable risk under enemy fire. The captain was decorated for this, and at every other November the 11th pinned the ribbon on the breast of Alf's tunic, and Alf duly returned the gesture the following year. That is, until last year. No Captain James. That's when the misbehaviour in the wardrobe started up again. Even the garden couldn't contain him. If not tethered to a tree with a circular range of freedom like a goat, he would bound over gate or hedge and run amok. Neighbours complained. The police came out, but went back convinced the whole thing was stirred up by vindictive neighbours, letting their imaginations run away with them, which of course a false leg could not. Not in my book, sir. By now the bus had made 3 stops without Alf hopping off. I wondered what his fellow passengers thought of him taking up a seat or unselfishly occupying the luggage area. Like the police, they probably looked the other way and refused to entertain the possibility of a leg taking a freebie bus ride. Finally, Alf alighted and turned down a side road. I followed, undecided whether to stop and catch hold of him, or find out whether he was going anywhere in particular, or just doing a runner for fun. No fun at all, as it turned out. The route ended at the cemetery gates. I parked and followed Alf at a discreet distance. He edged towards a gathering huddled round a graveside. I sneaked to a space at the back, but Alf nudged his way through to the very front, beside the priest and chief mourners. The proceedings had reached the stage where a tall man in black was casting soil into the grave on top of the coffin. All was silent, save for the patter of earth on wood. The solemn tension was broken by a resounding thwack as Alf flung himself on top of the coffin. A restrained gasp went up. I pushed forward to stand between the priest and the chief mourner and babbled my apologies. "It's Alf Biggins, my uncle. I mean, it's his leg. I'm so sorry. For some reason he's been buried, but he appears to want to..." The tall man in black stopped me. "Alf Biggins? Sergeant Biggins?" "Yes," I mumbled. "How did you..." "That's my wife," he said, pointing to the grave. "I'm sorry," I moaned. "I'll retrieve it, if you'll allow me," I asked, looking from him to the priest for permission to invade the grave. The priest was lost for words, but the tall man reached for my hand and spoke. "Perhaps I can explain. Sylvia, my wife, would be known to your uncle as Captain James." I gripped his hand hard and wouldn't let go. Then the tears came. "Let him stay there," he continued. "Sylvia would have wanted it. He owed his life to her. Let him pay his tribute." I stood as the earth pattered down, some of it from my own trembling hands. When we had finished, I took his hand again as we walked away from the grave. We had no need to speak. I knew his thought, as he knew mine, just as Alf and Sylvia knew that there are bonds in life that run silent and deep and long.
I couldn't believe it. I said, "It's just a cough." He said, "No such thing these days. That's a hack." I says, "A hack? A hack?" I tells him, "It's just a tickle. It's a rasp at best." "That ain't no tickle," he says, "and it ain't no rasp either. And it's persistent." So I says, "Okay, so it's nagging. But since when can't you get on the bus with a cough?" "Maybe yesterday," he says, "but not today, and not on mine, and not with a loud hack." I says to him, "It ain't no hack." And then I makes the big mistake of coughing again. Only this time, it's of the irritable variety, which coincidentally is how I would describe the driver and his passengers. Irritable. They were all looking at me. So now I've got a cough of the nervous variety. "Get off my bus," he shouted, which took me by surprise. And just my luck, I had one of those moments where something goes down the wrong way, and that little nervous tremble turns into a gag and whooping fit. It would have been nice to get a pat on the back or the offer of a drink of water, instead of a dig in the ribs from the sharp end of an umbrella, and a bellowing mob down me ear going, "It's the fex, he's got the fex, get him off the bus." And then they're all shouting, "Quarantine, he should be in quarantine." I'm choking, and someone says, "You need to be in self-isolation, lad." Turns out that was the driver. I'm getting mad myself now. So I says stupidly, and without thinking, I says, "I can't see the big deal. It's just a virus, it'll probably be gone tomorrow. And then I said it again. It's just a cough. Whoa, big mistake. 4 coughs, says he. I'm not counting, says I. Get off my bus, he says again. So I get off, and everyone cheered. And then he revved the engine and pulled away. That's a bit harsh, I thought. And then I coughed again.
Oh, I spotted him straight away. "You Mick?" I asked. And he stands up. Real gent, I thought.
Ah, it's Mike. But hello, Julia.
Julie. And we sat down at the table together. Then, after a few nervous coughs, he asked...
Should we order? If you're ready, I mean.
Not quite. Because I wanted to know if you'd been here before. He smiled. So I asked how many.
I won't lie.
Why do people say that? I mean, would they say, "I will lie," if they were going to? Anyway, turns out this is his 3rd attempt. Same restaurant. Well, in the spirit of honesty, I tell him this is my 5th go. Different places. I'm fussy, I tell him. Even my workmates tell me that. But then he finishes off my sentences, which really annoys me. But it was what I was going to say anyway, so I let him carry on.
Well, you have to make sure, don't you?
I nodded and added my bit. Yes. Then he nodded and we looked at each other and then quickly down at the cutlery as if we'd never seen a knife before because it was so weird doing intimate glances with a complete stranger. Anyway, I thought I'd better break the ice. As you know the place, what do you recommend for starters?
Oh, the bruschetta.
Bruschetta?
The tomato bruschetta.
I tell him I'm gluten intolerant, so he goes,
Ooh, how about the melon cocktail?
"Too much sugar," I said. He looks as if his nuts are caught in a vice, so I explain. "You know the glacé cherry you get with it? Sugar all over it." He goes quiet and finally...
You have a sugar allergy?
"Course not, silly."
What then?
"It goes," I said, "all the way back to the slave trade." And all he can think of to say is...
Not modern sugar, surely.
"It's all linked historically," I explained, as though I was talking to a kid. He does this big sigh like he's about to give up. Then tries again.
The calamari is nice.
"I'm vegan."
You should have told me.
"You didn't ask, Mick."
I didn't think to. And it's Mike.
At that, he picks up his menu like he's going to beat it to a pulp, but then takes this deep breath and carries on.
Maybe we should run down the mains menu before we end up on our hands and knees nibbling grass in the park.
That's where I burst out laughing. "Oh, thank you, Mike. You know, that's the first time any man's gone past the starters with me. I told you I was fussy, but only over men. I'll eat anything, me. It's just my way of testing a man's patience. I think I could get to really like you, Mike. Let's go back to the starters and start again, shall we? Waiter."
This hotel suite is truly spectacular. So lavish, so luxurious. The soft furnishings are exquisite. already been set up for us both. I wonder which I'll be interviewed on, left or right. I'm sure he'll get first choice as Hollywood A-lister. I'm just one of the supporting actors. Yes? Who's there? Yes, come in. Makeup. Great. Please come over. Hope she doesn't apply the fake tan too heavily. I'm sure you've applied makeup to loads of celebrities. Have you heard how far away our Hollywood friend is? I've heard he's en route. Less than 5 minutes away. I can't wait. I'm so nervous. You know, this is my first publicity interview on TV. In fact, this is my first major film, and alongside a Chuck Marvin as a supporting actor. So please, make me look good for the camera. I bet she saw that queue of journalists out there in the corridor. There's loads of them. I'm so nervous. Come on now, keep it together. I can't go all screwy in front of Chuck. Oh, he must be less than 3 minutes away now. And just to think, this time last year I was working as a stand-in. And now I'm being interviewed by all those waiting journalists with a Chuck Marvin, no less. Yes, come in. Hi, what are you doing here? It's great to have support from fellow supporting actor, but really, what on earth is she doing here? Have you come to wish me luck? Well, that wasn't the response I was hoping for. She's the one A-lister wanted for this publicity interview, not me. Well, what was I called in for then? I'm simply a mannequin, someone for the makeup artist to practice on before the real stars arrive. And no, I don't care if he's going to be here any minute now. I'm not leaving this lovely wing back for anyone. Oh, who might this be? The all-important star Chuck Marvin. Oh, please do come on in. Here's your supporting actor. Me? Who am I? Don't worry about me. I'm just a stand-in for a makeup artist, no one of any importance. I was only in the same goddamn film as you. I'm leaving. Well, boys, how do I look?
Actions have consequences. Why can't people take that on board? Why do they act without thought for anybody else? They just plough on not asking questions and therefore not getting answers. It's a witch hunt, a 21st century witch hunt. If the baying crowd had gotten hold of me that night, I dread to think what they'd have done. I'm convinced I wouldn't be here to tell the tale. I would have been swinging from the nearest tree, kicked and beaten to death, or thrown in the park lake. The whole scenario had left me a gibbering wreck. I can't eat. I'm under investigation at work. I'm scared to leave the house. Sleep? I don't know what sleep is. I close my eyes and all I see and hear is the hammering on the windows, the front and back doors being kicked in, the noise of the crowd baying for blood. If the police hadn't arrived, it all started 3 weeks ago. 2 plainclothes policemen were on the doorstep. They told me we needed to have a chat at the station. I'd witnessed a road traffic accident a few days before and I assumed that I was needed to give a statement. I was taken to a room and left on my own for some 20 minutes or so. I wasn't worried, I'd done nothing wrong. So I spent the time speculating as to who had previously sat in the room and what misdemeanours they'd committed. Arson, assault, maybe even murder. I'm a sucker for crime novels. Tried to write one once. Got to chapter 3 and realised I'd dried up. I'd already divulged who the murderer was halfway through the first chapter. While ruminating on my ill-fated sojourn into crime writing, a man around my age came in and introduced himself as the duty solicitor. If we both agreed, he'd represent me if need be. What's going on? I'm here to give a statement about a woman being run over. It was her fault. She just stepped off the pavement. The driver didn't stand a chance. Joseph Barber ignored my question and he continued taking down my details. He was balding right in the middle of his head. I wondered if he was aware of the growing sparse patch. He wouldn't be able to see it in the mirror. I contemplated telling him but thought better of it. Joseph Barber didn't look as if he possessed much of a sense of humour. I'd done nothing wrong, so I remained calm, anticipating I'd soon be on my way home. One of the aforementioned detectives entered looking grim and carrying a file. He hadn't been a laugh a minute on the journey to the station, but now he looked as if he'd swallowed a wasp. Barber stood and, moving round the table, sat next to me. Detective Travis sat opposite. Travis attacked like a bull in a china shop. He asked a number of personal questions, including what was my relationship with Miss Sarah Atkins. Relationship? She's my neighbour. She brought me round a shepherd's pie the day I moved in. I'm a pink food man. She cooks me the odd meal and gives me a roast on Sunday. Her home-cooked meals are most welcome. In return, I do the odd DIY job. A bit of this and that. What about her son, Justin? He's a good kid. I've taken him to the match a couple of times. We watched the footy on Sky and we're both gamers. Sarah says he looks up to me. He doesn't see his real dad. What about Justin's friends? They sometimes come in with him. I give them pop and sweets. We have a laugh. You know, all men together. But they are not men, they are 10 years of age. It's just a figure of speech. Joseph Barber's advised me not to answer anything which made me feel uncomfortable. I had nothing to hide, I'd done nothing wrong. So I answered each question without rancour. No comment from me. Was it my intention to groom the boys? There it was, out in the open. I was beginning to feel things weren't going my way. A newspaper cutting was placed before me. Mother voices concern that a registered paedophile has been allocated a property in her local area. The name of the cause for concern, Jeffrey O'Brien. That's not me. I've never been to prison in my life. We are aware of that, replied Travis, but we have reason to believe that the locals have put 2 and 2 together and made 5. You need to be careful. I work with kids, for God's sake. I'm not a paedophile. The neighbours had seen me go off in the car. The word pedo had been written in paint across the front door and the windows. Jesus, they can't even spell. The following day saw the lynch mob arrive. 3 weeks on. Sarah still keeps Justin away and I'm back to eating pink food. Mistaken identity. If only people would think before blindly acting, without questioning. The police have warned the troublemakers to keep away. I'm still scared. I think I'll have to move house again.